So everyone, I just want to welcome on, is that Anhoni?
It's Anhoni.
Anhoni. Okay, perfect. Want to get that right straight away. But, a little bit about me with the Natural Nipple. I have been working with them for 6 years. I'm now the director of business relations. So really, I'm just working on driving and building our brand awareness for our personalized bottle where parents and caregivers can now introduce a bottle without disrupting that breastfeeding journey,
Mhm.
with the whole mission to really bridge the gap between breast and bottle feeding.
Mhm.
And joined with us today is Anhoni Patel, who's the founder of Miss Patel's, which makes Ayurvedic inspired treats and teas that support pregnancy, lactation, and women's health. So we're really excited and grateful to round out and start the weekend with this live. So thank you again for joining.
Thank you.
Every journey begins with a story. Could you share yours and what inspired you to start Miss Patel's?
Yes, I'd love to share our story. It's one of my favorite things to chat about. So we were founded in 2012. So we are, 13 years old and going. And I founded the company when my daughter was 4.5 months old, and I had my son, they're less than 2 years apart. So they were really, really young. And I look back on that, and that's not it. That's not the advice I would ever give to someone to start a company when they had two children in diapers and an infant. So I started it, and the mission is really simple. I started because I wanted to help support other new mothers, other women that had just had a child and needed help with their postpartum healing, needed a little bit support, nutritional support, some herbal support with their breastfeeding efforts. And then we expanded, and now we have something called our super bars that any person can have from the moment you menstruate to menopause. So we have some customers who had used us when they had their children, when they were nursing and for postpartum, and now they're going through perimenopause, which is like the beginning of their menopause journey, if you will. And they're using our products again because one of our herbs is a hormone balancer and it helps during menopause. And you'd be surprised how many of those symptoms are so similar to pregnancy and postpartum because it's all about the hormones. So
Absolutely.
we founded it to support women who are going through this very vulnerable part of their life, and they might not have all the resources that they need, or the education, all the nutrition, and any of the traditions. And I wanted to share our family's traditions with others. And the recipes are for our products are based on family recipes that have been passed down from mother to mother within our family for generations. So they're like hundreds of years old. My mom made them for me. My grandmother made them for my mom, and my great grandmother made them for my grandmother, and so forth. And you can't buy them in a store. They're like our family recipes. They're homemade. Different families have their own
Right.
take on it in India, and I'm sure other cultures have, their thing that they give. And I knew you couldn't buy it in a store, and I wanted to share it. So I kind of started sharing it with my mom's groups and their friends, and then we expanded from there. Yeah.
That is so amazing. One, I want to commend you for starting a company with two littles. I can only imagine how hectic that would have been and really just powering through, especially in our startup journey and seeing that, I don't have any kids currently, hopefully planning soon, but I really, really have to give you some props on that side because I'm sure that, that was hard to balance, family and business. You never know what to do. I think the biggest thing is when starting a company, you don't get a rule book and you don't get a handbook. And just like parenting, when you are having your first, your second, they're so different and there's no rule book or handbook to really follow. So you're out there. So sharing those resources definitely helps. And, addressing those gaps in maternal and infant care where people don't feel supported.
Mm-hmm.
I was working with the National Science Foundation, and I really
Oh,
just hopped on to talk to parents and see what are the barriers, not only to breastfeeding, but what do you feel? How do you feel after giving birth? What's your postpartum journey like?
it's so
And a lot of
hard.
them said, yeah, a lot of them said, this isn't normalize like maybe my feelings, my depression, the anxiety around if I'm doing things wrong, if I'm doing it right, if I'm enough as a
Right.
parent. So really addressing that and sharing the resources that you have is absolutely amazing. When talking to those parents, one of the most common concerns for new moms is also milk supply. So our whole
Mhm.
life is really going to be how to boost milk supply naturally. Um, how can mothers assess whether they truly have like a low milk supply?
So I would say, and that's a really tricky question because
Mm.
I think that people see like their pump output. So some women, breastfeeding people, lactating people, they'll see how much they've pumped and they'll see like this little amount and they will panic.
Yeah.
And or they'll just, their baby might be, their newborn especially might be hungry after a feed, or they might be feeding very frequently. And that, especially with your first child, and every child is different, but especially with your first child, it can lead to like panic and overwhelm because you don't know. Even if you take a breastfeeding class, when you're in the moment, it's very hard. And I say, let's take a deep breath, let's slowly roll, because pump output is not indicative of how much milk you're actually making. It could depend on the day. If you nurse and pump, you're not going to make that much milk. You'll have like this much milk. And it babies can feed, newborns can feed so frequently, especially during growth spurts when they're cluster feeding and they feed like so frequently.
Mhm.
And they might think, some parents might think when they're feeding through the night, like, oh my God, they must be so hungry, they're not getting enough milk. Whereas it's very normal. And actually, you're supposed to wake up your baby at least every 2 hours in the night. Some babies, especially when they're newborns, they sleep through the night. You want to wake them up and make sure they get those feeds in. So that is all normal newborn infant behavior. The best indicator of a low milk supply would be like diaper output, pee and poo diapers.
Mhm.
And we have a chart for that. You can easily look that up of like what would be the proper amount of diapers, pee diapers, and poo diapers a newborn, a 3 month old, a 6 month old should be making. And that would give you a more telling structure of it. Is your baby getting enough milk? And then before you panic, I would always like we recommend consulting with your pediatrician. What does your pediatrician say? Is baby gaining weight in addition to those diaper outputs? Is baby gaining the weight that they need to? And also, as many new mothers know, the baby always loses a little weight after they're
Mhm.
born. That can also make people panic and get a little scared or frightened. Totally normal. You want to get them up to a certain birth weight at within the week of them giving birth or coming into this world. You want to keep track, and every baby's different, will gain weight in a different rate. And I had my son was 5 pounds, and one of my best friends had an 11-pound child. So very, very different children, different weights. So always, before you panic, consult your pediatrician. They'll weigh your baby, they'll talk about diaper output, and they will assess whether there's an issue, and then make a plan with you. And then we also recommend, and maybe your pediatrician has a lactation professional in their office. We
Mhm.
also recommend working with a lactation professional in addition with your pediatrician to make a plan. And that's the best way to assess whether you have low milk supply.
Absolutely. I think it's so nice that you guys have that diaper output resource. We'll make sure to put that in our blog. So after every IG Live, we always take key highlights, put them into like a condensed down version. We'll make sure to tag you, and if possible, we'll add that into our blog because I think that is such a helpful resource. I think it's easier said than done when we tell parents like, don't panic.
I
There's
know.
resources out there. There's people. That can help you, like our lactation consultant that's in-house, Katya. She's great. She's available. And just working with the resources that you have, and knowing that, it's very, very common to have that perceived low supply. So you're not alone in that feeling. And, for moms who want to boost their supply naturally, do you have any tips on some effective methods that you've seen or may have worked with you and your little ones?
So one of the most effective ways to help your supply if you feel like you're struggling. And this can happen, let's say, going back to work. This can happen. You can experience, many people experience a dip when they have their menstrual cycle, a little dip during that week, maybe before that week. One of the most effective ways is first to remove milk consistently through breastfeeding and pumping, and make it very consistent. So if you are breastfeeding, you can add in a pump, right? If you aren't like regularly pumping, and keep it around the same time, that will signal to your body, okay, let's try to get some more milk get going. The other thing you can do is power pumping. We actually just sent out a newsletter this week all about power pumping, like why it works, why it's, how to do it, what the science behind it. And that is basically just signaling to your body. It's mimicking cluster feeding, right? So you do it for an hour, maybe 4 or 5 days for an hour, and you pump like 20 minutes on, then 10 minutes on, 10 minutes off. And we're getting some cute comments from some of our wonderful community. So you want to power pump, and that signals to your body that to make more milk. That's very, very effective. Another really easy way is breast compressions. We also have a really great resource on breast compressions, and that's essentially just breast massage. And there's a certain way to hold your breast with your nursing. You can do when you're pumping, and it's just a massage technique. Very simple, very straightforward, but it really helps get more milk. It loosens your ducts, and you can do it before you're nursing or pumping, during, and then afterwards. And you can get a little bit of ways, right? Pumping consistently, nursing consistently, adding like one pump. You can do power pumping, you can do breast compressions, and then the fourth really simple thing you can do is a warm compress. And you can take, like, I have a heat pack. We have heat packs in my house, and my kids love them. If you don't have a heat pack, and that's essentially like a fabric sack with like seeds in it. I don't know what's in ours. You can make one with rice in a sock.
Yes.
It's super simple, and you don't want to burn yourself. You just heat it up. We also have a resource for that. And you just lay it on your breast. If it's too hot, I would do it like over your nursing bra or your hands-free pump bra, just to warm your body up and loosen up. So it's not rocket science. It's just helping you relax a little bit. So, and my fifth tip, this is my personal pro tip, is drinking something warm. Like, I would just drink hot water. I would drink like lactation tea, just something. Shout out for Mrs. Patel's lactation tea. Just something that's warm and cozy that loosens you up and relaxes you. Real simple.
Yeah, those are 5 amazing tips that we will definitely be putting in our blog. And what I'm hearing really is, consistency is key. A lot of people think if they pump more, like they will have less, or they're not pumping enough already. So should they wait until baby's ready? But really, it sends signals to your body to create more milk. So it's kind of like a different way of thinking, but that consistency is key here. And then, speaking of the natural methods, galactagogues are often discussed. Can you explain what those are and possibly their effectiveness?
Yes. Whoever thought of the name galactagogue is playing a little science fiction joke
They
on
are.
us. It's such a funny, strange name. But a galactagogue is an herb that helps your body make milk. So it's a very fancy word for something that helps you make milk, particularly an herb that helps you make milk. And galactagogues are amazing. They've been used in traditional cultures and communities all over the world for hundreds and hundreds of years, if not more. And they just help support your milk making efforts. So I want to always say, when I talk about galactagogues, that you have to nurse, you have to pump, you have to remove milk in whatever way that is. And the galactagogues will support your own efforts. So if you're having some problems, or you need some extra support, and you want to take a galactagogue, you want to take some herbs, some supplements, you have to you can't be like, well, I don't pump, I don't breastfeed, I'm not going to do power pump, I'm not going to do the things that like help my body remove milk. The
Mhm.
galactagogues won't work very well. They can't suddenly magically make milk if you're not removing the milk through nursing or pumping, if that makes sense. So you have to, they only help your body, give it that extra boost, give it that extra support, give it the nutritional needs that it needs, that your body will need to produce a little bit more milk. So that's essentially how they work. And different galactagogues work in different ways. For example, there's an herb called fenugreek that we use in one of our products, and it's the most recommended galactagogue by lactation professionals and medical professionals. Not everyone can take it. There are people that it can be contraindicative. People who have certain health conditions can't take it, and we have information of that on our site as well. And you can look that up or consult with your doctor. But it's very commonly used, and how it works is that it stimulates your sweat glands in your breasts. And
Okay.
I know that when people take high concentrations of that, they say they smell like maple syrup. What they're doing is it's literally stimulating the sweat glands, because when you're breastfeeding, you essentially, the one of the components that help make milk are essentially modified, hooped up sweat
Hmm.
glands,
Hmm.
and they stimulate that, and that is how fenugreek in particular helps stimulate your body and helps support your body to make more milk. And different herbs do different things, like just it depends on the galactagogue. So that's what galactagogues do. They help support your own efforts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I was taking a look at your website, and for those that are just joining, or for those that haven't been able to navigate over to Miss Patel's just yet, she does have those treats. So I was looking at, and you can explain more on this, but the cookies, the brownies, the teas, I mean, there's a whole bunch of different ways that you can help boost your milk supply, and those things look absolutely amazing. Um, so using galactologs with your efforts, we also know that diet plays a crucial role. I know we talked about fenugreek. Are there any other foods that you recommend for boosting supply naturally?
Yeah, so a lot of people have oats, right? So oats have fiber, they have iron in them. That's how they help you nutritionally. Um, we One of the herbs that we use, for example, is shatavari, and that's kind of like a nice alternative to fenugreek. There's not a lot of medical contraindications, except if you're allergic to asparagus,
Okay.
then you shouldn't have shatavari. I will say that we just had someone who is even eating a bag of our cookies. I'm so glad
Yes.
that you enjoy them. So our lactation cookies have shatavari, and that is called colloquially in Ayurveda the queen of herbs. It's a natural hormone balancer, and you can have it from the moment you're menstruating, like you people like girls get it when they're 12 to through menopause, right? So that's also in our energy bars, our women's wellness bars. And what it does depends on what is happening with your body. So if you're having your period, it helps with cramps, it helps ease PMS symptoms. If you're pregnant, it helps morning sickness. If you are lactating, it helps support the production of prolactin, which helps in milk production. It's essential to milk production. And if you are going through menopause, it helps ease your night sweats, it helps with hormone related headaches, and it just takes the edge off some menopause symptoms that one might be experiencing during that time. So shatavari is absolutely amazing. I stand shatavari, and that's what's one of the ingredients. Like with along with oats, flaxseed meal has great omega 3s. We also use brewer's yeast, gluten free brewer's yeast made from molasses in our lactation cookies, and that's also a common ingredient that people can find in other lactation supplements. And brewer's yeast has a lot of B vitamins, and B vitamins that has B6, it has B2. It are help really support the body, and they help in the milk production process of the human body, and that is like how brewer's yeast works. And our lactation tea, for example, has dill seeds and alfalfa leaf. that work. And dill seeds help in the production of uh, milk, and alfalfa leaf, which is also very common in many other teas and products. They have like one of the highest levels of chlorophyll, for example. They also have iron, and all supporting the body's own system to help support milk supply. So those are some of the ingredients that we use that you can find in other things. I will also say one more thing that I think is important to note. In Mrs. Patel's products, we use culinary quantities of our herbs. So the fenugreek that you find in our lactation treats, it's going to be what you'd find like in a dish of Indian food, right? Like it's a very common ingredient in a lot of Indian dishes. It's not a medicinal quantity. It's not this like whopping, very large quantity. It's absorbed through your body through food, which as we all know, like when you digest something through food, your body absorbs it at a much deeper level. And for vitamins, half the time you are peeing out a lot of the vitamin
Right.
when you take a pill or whatnot. So it's absorbed on a much deeper level. But we use culinary quantities. And I want to just say that if one is going to be using medicinal quantities of supplements or herbs, they should work with someone that knows their medical history.
Mm-hmm.
They should work with their personal doctor, medical doctor, an Ayurvedic doctor, or an herbalist, someone who really knows their body and how these work with any health conditions you might have, other medications you might be taking, any allergies you might have when you're taking those large quantities. I don't think it should just be, my recommendation is one should not just be willy-nilly taking very large quantities of herbs without any other consult from a professional, that medical herbalist or Ayurvedic doctor that deals with this. So that's my 2 cents I always like to add when we're talking about supplements and herbs and galactagogues.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was so helpful. And I wanted to, I think I heard this while you were speaking, but you offer gluten-free treats as well.
Yeah.
Am I correct in that? Okay. Perfect.
Yes, we have
Perfect.
a gluten-free, our lactation treats, we have gluten-free vegan ones. Our lactation cookies are gluten-free and vegan. So our teas are, dairy-free, fenugreek-free, gluten-free. Our super bars are gluten-free. One of them is vegan because some people have to go dairy-free. You'd be surprised how many
Yeah.
babies might have a dairy sensitivity, and they'll grow out of it like 9 times out of 10. They'll grow out of it, but at the beginning, and all of a sudden, you might not be vegan or dairy free, but all of a sudden, as a breastfeeding parent, a lactating parent, you have to now give up dairy, and you're
Mhm.
scrambling for something that you can take or something that you can supplement your diet nutritionally that is dairy free, but
Right.
also yummy and good for
Right.
you.
Yummy is definitely key. And then while we're highlighting just diet, I want to also highlight that like hydration is key in absolutely any health journey. So really just making sure that you're hydrating yourself adequately, but not excessively. So we always like to mention that as well. You're burning a lot of calories breastfeeding, running around after a little one, losing sleep. Hydration is definitely a huge key, and making sure that you have an abundant milk supply. I know we talked a little bit about some herbal uh, supplements and some things that you can help with. I also want to highlight as we're rounding out, this has gone by so quick.
I
Um,
know.
I'm like, I could talk all day about this. But I also want to mention too, like, motherhood can be stressful. How does that stress impact milk supply? And, how can moms manage that?
So stress actually affects milk supply in a big deal. Stress
Yeah.
affects your whole body, but it definitely affects milk supply. And it's easier said than done, but the more you stress about your milk supply or panic, it actually just makes the situation worse. And I also think there's a lot of pressure on women, on moms to breastfeed. Like
Yes.
you've got to breastfeed. It's the best thing for your baby. And it is. It's very good for your kid. But also having a present parent and a present mom that is happy and there for them is I feel the most important thing.
Hmm.
So whether when your kid, as they get older, I have a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old, and they're amazing and they're healthy and they're doing great and they're smart and all the things. And they're that way because, not necessarily because I breastfed both of them for quite a long time, but I think they are that way because I was able to parent them. It's my parenting and my mothering, my constant mothering. My son is literally texting me right now. And so, right now. So that is what matters. So what, feed your baby whatever way you want to. It
Mm-hmm.
has to work for you. There's no right way, there's no wrong way. There's just a fed baby, right? Whatever that, you have to do what you have to do. Don't put so much pressure on yourself, because they will be fine. I'm a living testament. Like, they're going to be great regardless of how you feed them. And if it is overwhelming you, if it's stressing you out, it's affecting your mental health, it's not,
Yeah,
that's not it. Once you get to affect your mental health and it's a detriment to you and it's not serving you, it's making you feel overwhelmed, more anxious, depressed, then that is part of the problem, and it's not part of your solution, and it's not going to help you be the best mother or parent that you can be. So it's okay to
yeah,
feed them any way you want, as long as it's done and you are happy with yourself. And I feel like too much pressure is put on women to feed a certain way.
absolutely.
Even breastfeeding, sometimes you're like, why are you breastfeeding so long? Why are you doing this? There's some cultures where it's very, very looked down upon. So the pressures, it's kind of like damned if you do, damned if you don't. Is that the
Absolutely.
idiom?
Yes.
So
Yeah, we like to mention, you have to do what works for you at the end of the day. There's not a end all be all one set way that is better than another way. And here at the National Bowl, we really just like giving you the tools to help you navigate, like, what is that perfect sweet spot where you know that your baby's getting enough, they're getting fed, and then your mental health and your physical health are still being looked after and taken care of. Talking with those moms in my research, there is just so much pressure. You said it exactly correct. Whether you breastfeed too long, whether you're not breastfeeding at all, whether you're using a bottle or introducing a bottle, I mean,
right.
you're going to find judgment in every direction. So really trusting in yourself and having the confidence in yourself, knowing that you know what's best for your little one. We always say motherhood is a village. So lean on your family, your friends, the people that are there to support you. And then also resources that you trust would be very, very important. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
And then we're right at the dot, but if I could ask a couple more questions, because I think this is so important. Patience is tough when you're worried and when you're stressed out. Is there a length, or how long should moms wait to see results after trying a new method? So if they're trying something new, like a hot compress, maybe a little bit more skin to skin, how can they know, when to move on to the next thing if that's not working, and find out what's best for them?
Well, if you're working with your pediatrician, they will do different weigh-ins. They'll look at how the baby's gaining weight. If you're working with a lactation professional, shout out to all the amazing lactation professionals out there. They'll be like working with you very closely and tracking what's working. I feel like there's just, it's all, you can do all of it in one day, right? You can do the warm compress, whatever is easiest for you and works best for you. Power pumping is generally recommended like 4 to 5 days. Some people can do it for a week. If you're adding in a pumping session, you'll just see, it depends on how you're feeding your baby. Like, so if you're doing it in conjunction with your child's doctor or with a lactation professional, they'll be tracking it with you. They'll be like looking at diaper output, weight gain. They have all different methodologies to track that effectively and successfully. And if you're kind of doing it on your own, let's say your baby's a little bit older and you're like, you have a goal, right? It's going back to work and you need a little bit of stash. You'll see the results, right? Let's say you've like been doing this for 6 months, 8 months, you're going back to work, or some cases 3 months. That's a little more complicated. You'll see like your output increase. And you want to be careful not to have oversupply. That is not a problem that people want, because you can get mastitis.
Yeah.
You can, and I have had mastitis. It is absolutely no joke. It threw me into getting pneumonia because I got so sick from it. And you want to not have oversupply. You want to just have what meet your goals. Like I said, recommend working with your lactation professional or a pediatrician. And if your goal is like, okay, I just want to eat like 2 ounces for like the babysitter, or like a little bit for daycare. You don't need a ton for daycare depending on how old your child is. And once you meet that goal, you can settle down. You don't, I wouldn't be power pumping for over a week. If you want to add an extra session, one extra session, that's fine. You can keep on doing that. And that milk is used for your like stash for the next day for work. It just depends. People feed such different ways. They have such different schedules. It just depends on what your needs are. And like I said, work with the professionals if you are, creating a plan for yourself.
Absolutely. And, this has been an amazing 30 minutes with you. I think we could both keep going and talk
Yeah,
all
I
day.
know.
This has just been so valuable. So we'll have a blog next weekend that's up. We'll be able to direct you to Miss Patel's so you can see the different treats. You can try different things out. And essentially, we've also wanted to extend a discount to your community and your members. So if anybody's interested in trying the natural nipple, we'll link that discount
Great.
code. And
Thank you.
and yeah, TNNX Miss Patel's. So again, we'll have that blog up. We'll have a YouTube video of this up. So anybody that comes on or wasn't able to make it today, they'll be able to get a condensed down version of basically everything we ran through on how we can help boost and manage your milk supply. But I just want to thank you so much. This has been
Yeah,
wonderful.
thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. And again, I love talking about this. As you can tell, I love connecting with other women, other mothers, other parents, and talking about this great topic.
Absolutely, absolutely. I hope you have a fantastic weekend.
Yes, same to you. Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys. Thank you for
Bye.
joining.